and welcome to our 9th annual Kickoff. On behalf of Impact 100, I would like to extend a warm welcome to our returning members, our esteemed guests, and of course, our enthusiastic new members. I'm Betsy Yost, and I have the honor of hosting this event and also our holiday or Helping Hands event that will be here on December 7th. If you've never come to I don't know why I keep calling it that. If you've never come to Helping Hands before, it's a really festive night where we get together and get updates from previous grant recipients. Before we start tonight's program, I would like to thank our extremely generous sponsors, the Boucher family of dealerships, the Orthopedic Hospital of Wisconsin, and the Ruffalo Family Foundation. Truly, without their support, events like this and all the other ones that we enjoy would not be possible. So let's give them a big round of applause. I would also like to thank the Wisconsin Club for their excellent hospitality and the delicious food and their amazing service. And if you haven't had an appetizer yet, go ahead and get one now. So I just want to extend a thank you to them too. To begin our program tonight, we will have a few remarks from our Impact 100 president, Julie Gilpin. Julie is a seasoned human resources professional and community volunteer. She's been in Milwaukee for over 2 decades and serves her community through participation and leadership in a variety of organizations. So let's welcome Julie Gilpin to the stage.
Thank you, Betsy. It's so great to see so many faces out in the crowd tonight. So good evening and welcome. Thank you all for making and taking the time to be here tonight to kick off our new Impact Year, Year 9. Special thanks tonight to our hardworking Impact members who made this night possible. Betsy Yost, Maureen Kenfield, Kim Weisgerber, Sarah Manning, and their team of helpers. We all know it takes a lot of planning and work behind the scenes to make these events happen, and we thank you for doing your job and doing it so well. I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge another special role that people play in our organization, which are our ambassadors. They are Impact members who take a small group of other members under their wing and help make them feel connected to our organization. It's a really important piece. If you are an ambassador and you are in the crowd, if you would please stand. Thank you, ladies, for volunteering to take on that role. If you get a text or an email from someone saying she's your ambassador, that might be who it is, and she'll help you find people to sit with or a ride or keep you updated on dates as our year goes on. So thank you. Well, it's a big night, and we are absolutely thrilled to have Global Impact founder and CEO Wendy Steele here as our keynote speaker. But before we hear from Wendy, we've got a couple of big announcements to make. Now, one of my favorite quotes, can you all hear me? I feel like this mic is in a funny place. Can you hear me? Okay. One of my favorite quotes, and one that I was very excited to see in Wendy Steele's new book, is that of Margaret Mead, where she says, "Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed individuals can change the world. In fact, it's the only thing that ever has." I like to believe that Ms. Mead's concept was perfected by Angela Velez and Sophia Monroe when they said, "Don't underestimate the power of when a group of passionate women come together to get things done." Our organization is certainly proof of these quotes and a shining example of these words in action. As you already know, or you will know before tonight is over, our keynote speaker, Wendy, developed the Impact 100 playbook around 2001. In 2015, right here in Milwaukee, 5 committed, passionate leaders came together around a kitchen table. And 8 years later, we've given away almost $3 million. To help make our first big announcement, I ask the founders of Greater Milwaukee's Impact 100 chapter, Cynthia Harris, Sue Connor, Jamie Malatesta, Mary Therese Brager, and Ann Trunzo, to please come forward.
Need the glasses, sorry. Here we go. So, the city of Milwaukee. Is that better? The City of Milwaukee joins Impact 100 Greater Milwaukee and community members in recognizing Impact 100 Day on September 13th, 2023. And whereas Impact 100 is a global collective giving organization with more than 60 chapters throughout the United States and beyond, founded by Wendy Steele. Impact 100 Greater Milwaukee is an organization of women who collectively award transformative grants that make a lasting impact on our community. And
whereas Impact 100 Greater Milwaukee Branch was founded in 2015 to serve Milwaukee, Ozaukee, Washington, and Waukesha counties, where it has awarded $2.8 million in grants in 8 years to local organizations. And
whereas Impact 100 Greater Milwaukee is an all-volunteer organization that grew membership from 218 to 405 women in 7 years, as well as has over 100 members review 60 to 80 grants annually. And
whereas Impact 100 Greater Milwaukee supports small to medium-sized nonprofits with transformative, impactful, and sustainable missions, such as Islands of Brilliance, The Gathering, VIA CDC, Grand Avenue Club, Silver Spring Neighborhood Center, and many more, and
whereas the City of Milwaukee joins residents in honoring Impact 100's dedication and grant allocation to organizations that provide health, wellness, education opportunities, family support, environmental revitalization, and arts and culture to our Milwaukee community. And now, therefore, now I'm reading this, I, Cavalier Johnson, Mayor of the City of Milwaukee, do hereby proclaim September 13th, 2023 to be Impact 100 Day throughout the City of Milwaukee. Signed, Cavalier Johnson, Mayor.
Thank you, founders, and thank you to all the women who have supported Greater Milwaukee by investing in Impact 100. Well, since it's already a big day, we've got a big number to announce. Now, as you all probably know, the more members we have on December 31st, the more money we can grant back to our community at our annual award celebration in June. The initial goal of the Impact 100 model was 100 women, one $100,000 transformational grant to one organization. Some impacts have 100 members. The largest in Pensacola, Florida, is around 1,000 members every year. Do that math. In Milwaukee, we were delighted to have over 200 members in our very first year. We've been as big as 405 members. Last year, we proudly boasted 388 members. Again, some great math when you translate that into the equation that for every 100 members, we give one $100,000 grant back to our community. Our process is, at each June, after the annual award celebration, our membership drive starts all over again. We're back to 0 paid members. We work to retain our current members and recruit new ones each summer and fall. In January, we announce how many members we have, and more importantly, how that number translates into the amount of money we can give in grants back to our community the following June. If you've served on a grants committee or attended our annual award celebration, you've probably had the same feeling that I have, wishing we could give to more nonprofits. There is so much need right here in Greater Milwaukee, and so many amazing people working on truly worthy projects to meet those needs. Well, guess what? Great news. We can give to more nonprofits. And here's the second and final big announcement of the night. your board has been planning and strategizing. We've got a very ambitious goal, a goal that needs each of you if we are to make it happen as an organization. The goal for Impact 100 Greater Milwaukee is to have 450 paid members by December 31st, 2023. If we can achieve this big goal, we will be able to grant $450,000 to nonprofits on June 4th, 2024. And we're not stopping there. We're looking ahead to year 10. So 450 this year, and then on to 500 members and $500,000 in grants in our 10th year in June of 2025. And yes, we know that these big numbers may make us rethink some of the way we do things, but we think we're up to that challenge. You, our members, and our grants winners are our best recruiters. You are an essential tool and resource as we try to meet this goal. Now, in case you were wondering, because I'm sure you are, as of about 2 o'clock today, we have 124 paid members. That's one $100,000 grant and a start on a second. 124 members down, 326 more members needed to reach our goal of 450 members by December 31st, 2023. We also aim to attract an increased number of nonprofits applying for our grants. That process kicks off with an informational session on October 10th. Please watch our website and social media and your inboxes for information about planned recruiting events, grant application process, and grant committee service. And now, without further ado, I'm going to welcome our guest speaker tonight. You'll notice in the middle of your tables there are index cards and pens. While you're listening to the speaker tonight, if a question comes to mind, please take a minute to jot that question down on the note card. And at the end of Wendy's time talking with us, someone will come around and collect the cards, and we'll have a short question and answer period after she speaks. I'm absolutely thrilled to introduce and welcome Wendy to our stage. It's truly an honor to have her with us tonight. I'm going to give you a little bit of background on Wendy that she may not share while she's speaking, so that you have an idea of this truly inspirational person that will be speaking to you. From a young age, her family instilled in her the value of giving back, and that was done with the intention of leaving the world a little better than she found it. She strongly believes in the power of generosity, and her creation of Impact 100 brought a powerful model to the Giving Circle movement. And as you've heard, it has given away $123 million worldwide to worthy causes. Since the founding of Impact 100 in 2001, Wendy has worked tirelessly to share her philanthropy expertise through speaking engagement, volunteer hours, and through her new book, Invitation to Impact. You may have noticed that Boswell Book Company, our local bookstore, has copies to sell in the back, and they are signed by Wendy, and they will be here after if you're interested. Wendy was also recognized by Forbes in 2021 as one of 50 women over 50 who are leading the world in impact. Wendy is truly an inspirational philanthropist and a role model for women everywhere. Her story, her vision, her results have certainly inspired me personally and have made me even more proud to be a member of Impact 100. Wendy.
Oh my gosh. Thank you. Thank you so much for that very kind invitation or introduction. See, you set me up like I'm going to be great, and then I blow the first words out of my mouth. I'm putting this timer here to keep me on track because we have a lot to do tonight. I am so excited to be with you. This place and each of you, I can't begin to explain what it's like to be here. If you imagine that your child or your niece or a mentee or your little sister grew up and built something phenomenal and somehow looked to you to say thank you. That's what it feels like. I'll tell you that although I'm pretty emotional and heartfelt, I'm not a crier. Today, I've cried like 3 times. So I'm going to not cry, I promise. I'm going to not cry during this presentation, but let me say, it is so special for me to be here and to be welcomed with the warmth and the genuine friendship and enthusiasm. What you all are doing here is powerful, and you're just getting started. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about how Impact 100 got started. I was an unlikely founder. You see, I had moved to Cincinnati, Ohio from the East Coast. I'd graduated college with an economics degree, and I was in the banking business. I primarily served high net worth clients. Now, when I was in New England, and I was involved in the community, and I met women who weren't involved, I assumed it was a math problem. I assumed that the high cost of living in New England, in spite of the also decent pay you can get there, was the reason why people didn't give back. As Julie said in the introduction, I grew up giving back. And the analogy that I'll give you is that if you grow up in a family that serves fresh fruit and vegetables at your meals, when you get up and you graduate and you go on your own, you're not going to stop eating fresh fruits and vegetables just because they're more expensive. It's part of your life. Well, to me, that's what giving back was. So I always budgeted time and money to be able to do that. And when women didn't get involved in the things I hoped they would, I assumed it was a math problem. Then I moved to Cincinnati, Ohio. Cincinnati, Ohio is a place probably not too different from Milwaukee. There are lots of corporate headquarters. There are lots of opportunities for big jobs. But the cost of living is really low. The math works in your favor. So then when women were telling me all the reasons why they couldn't get involved, it wasn't a math problem. So in the summer of 2001, I sat down with a spiral notebook, and I started to write down all the reasons why women weren't involved. And one by one, I went to overcome those barriers. I meant to build something. Sorry, but if my timer stops timing, we'll all be in trouble. I went to build something that would meet them where they are, because what I know for certain is that the community needs what you have. The community needs you. It needs your hearts, your minds, and your checkbooks. I also knew that as women, we need to know what it feels like to be a part of the solution. Instead of wringing our hands and worrying as we watch the news, we need to know who the nonprofit heroes are out there that are doing the work every day to make this community better, healthier, safer, more inclusive in our own backyards. Because when we get to switch the narrative from wringing our hands and being concerned about the problems that our neighbors and friends face to focusing on those heroes who are solving the problem, everything changes. So in that spiral notebook, what I ended up with is what we all know as Impact 100, and you know how it works. You gather at least 100 women, they each make a donation, you pool the money together, and you offer it right back into the local community. Now, although from the beginning, my hope was that I didn't know there'd be an every other than Cincinnati, so I'll say the Cincinnati chapter. My hope was that the Cincinnati chapter would eventually reach 500 members. When we get to 500, something magical happens. We give away one grant in each one of those focus areas. And when we do that, the entire community benefits. And what that means is that there will not be a nonprofit in the area whose mission wouldn't qualify to be a grant recipient. That was the purpose. Now, my surprise, however, was when People magazine did a story, and pretty soon word started to spread until today. It's really blossomed into the movement that it currently is. And all these years later, it's still growing faster every year. Not always what I thought it would be, but a very happy surprise that that's the way it turned out. Now, when you look at why women come together, when I talk to women in a local community and I ask them to get involved in impact, the reason every Impact 100 chapter exists is to fund transformational grants to nonprofits who are doing the heavy lifting in the community every single day. That is why we exist. Now, what nonprofits will tell me, no matter where I go, is the impact of Impact 100. What they'll tell me is, you know, the nonprofit that I worked with, we applied for a grant, and we didn't get the grant. But what we got is our organization got a little better. Sometimes they might not have made it out of the focus area committees, but we learned something. Impact 100 members ask hard questions, and they care about the answers. Our organization got better because we applied. Those who make it a little further along, they'll say, when I applied, I might not have gotten the funding, but what I got is an incredible group of women who really care about what I'm doing and how we're doing it, and they want to support. You end up getting more than money. If you do get a grant, the ripple effect, or what we call the impact of Impact 100, is tremendous. Now, if you're a nonprofit and you're here, maybe you're already a grantee. I'd love to see you talk to your other nonprofit friends and encourage them to apply. If you haven't applied yet and you're here just to learn about the process, please, please apply. What you will hear me say time and time again is any Impact 100 chapter is only as powerful as the women who join and as transformational as the nonprofits who apply. Now, people will tell you that it's a rigorous process, and it is. And those of you who are grantees, you know firsthand that we ask for a lot of our nonprofit applicants. But here's why. This isn't one person's money so that one or two people can sit in a room and decide where the money goes. This is everyone's money. And we take the responsibility of stewarding every member's dollars very personally. So yes, our process is rigorous, but what you get along the way is your organization gets better and stronger. You end up with a whole community full of advocates who now know who you are and are cheering you to success. So please, it might seem daunting. I promise you, every member of Impact 100 Greater Milwaukee is cheering for you, because what we are looking for is we're looking for transformational change. We're looking to have you move the needle, and that's exactly what you're looking for. So please apply. If you don't get as far as you'd hoped, come back. If you get the grant, spread the word. When you're allowed to re-up, come back again with another big idea. In many communities, what nonprofits do is with their board and their senior staff is they do a dream big retreat. And they start to imagine the possibilities. What if we got $100,000 from Impact 100? What would we do? How could we move the needle? That's where I want you to think about. Don't start thinking about, oh, it's hard. It's not that hard. You do harder things every day. Now, we talked about the growth of Impact 100. We've grown because of communities just like this. We've grown because nonprofits around the world are in need of funding. Getting a small grant here and there is wonderful. Getting a significant grant changes everything. In the past 20 years, we went from our first grant in Cincinnati, Ohio of $123,000. 20 years later, we've grown 1,000-fold, which, I mean, I'm not really a numbers geek, but how do you not like that you give $1,000? We grew 1,000-fold over 20 years. $123,000, grant one, $123 million 20 years later. And we continue to grow. I'm going to throw my phone across the room in a minute because it keeps going to sleep. Now, what happens when we grow? We've been focused on the nonprofits because that's why we do the work. But there's something that I want all of you to think about, regardless of whether you're trying to decide whether you're going to join this Impact 100 chapter, how you're going to spread the word, whether you're going to apply for a grant. When an Impact 100 organization comes to town, and understand in year one, when these founders had more than 200 women who came together, they were trailblazing, and they are still trailblazing today. You imagine $200,000 that comes into your community, not from private companies, not from government grants or government programs. $200,000 that helps to feed people who are hungry, give job skills to allow people to work, give education, provide arts, preserve the environment, and on and on. Impact 100 becomes an economic engine because that $200,000 in year one here, that's powerful. But you see, our grants are made with two lenses. We want it to be transformational, and we want them to be sustainable. So $200,000 9 years ago is still causing ripples all throughout greater Milwaukee. And then you keep adding every grant after that and every grant after that. This is the power of Impact 100. Speaking of power, tonight is the official membership kickoff. Now, I am here to tell you, do I think Greater Milwaukee can get to 450 members between now and December 31st? Yeah, 100%. I have no doubt that you can do that. You've got a really hardworking board. You've got a really hardworking leadership team. You've got volunteers. This organization and every other Impact chapter is fully run by volunteers. These are women who may work outside the home. They may have been retired. They might be married. They might be single. They might have little kids, no kids, old kids, grandkids. They might be living in any part of your community. And what they're doing is they're choosing to roll up their sleeves and do the heavy lifting to not just bring Impact 100 to your community, but to make sure that it thrives. And as amazing as they are, they cannot get to $450,000 without your help. We need you to join, to tell your friends, to tell your colleagues. You don't need to know anybody, although now you can say that you know all the people, including me, so feel free. Now you can say you know everyone in leadership in Greater Milwaukee. But you don't need to know anyone in order to be a member. You don't need to have any special skills. You don't have to have ever given a penny away to anyone else if that's what your life is. You just have to decide that this is the year that I'm going to make an impact. This is the year that I want to see Impact 100 Greater Milwaukee hit 450 members. Because once you decide that, the rest just happens. Truly, it just happens. Now, we did a survey a while back. You may have heard me say in the past that at Impact 100, we empower women and we transform community. But I didn't have any data to back that up. And so 2020 and 2021, we did a research study. And it was not done by us, it was done by people who actually know what they're doing in that department. And it turns out we actually do empower women, and we actually do transform communities. Women who join Impact 100 report more knowledge about what's happening in the community, full information before making a decision about a grant, whether they volunteered or not. Many Impact 100 members, like to the tune of over 90%, say that they would recommend Impact to a friend and they would re-up. When you compare Impact 100 to other similar sized nonprofits, our retention of our members is off the charts. Why? Because the model is simple, the model is powerful, and everything we do is transparent. You don't have to wonder where your money's going. You don't have to wonder what will happen. And if you choose to get involved, I promise you it will change your life. When we started in Cincinnati, I thought I knew a lot about the community. I did. I thought I knew most of the nonprofits. I had been headfirst involved in everything. Those applications came in. There were nonprofits I had never heard of. They were solving problems I didn't even know were problems. We received over 100 applications that first year for that one grant of $123,000. Of our 5 finalists, the one who got it was the McMicken Dental Clinic. Now, this dental clinic served the homeless and uninsured in Over the Rhine, one of Cincinnati's most challenging neighborhoods. Actually, today, it's kind of an up-and-coming neighborhood, but then it was very scary. Now, one thing that you all might not realize is that when we all got together in Cincinnati to do the first Impact 100, everything about the model we started then is still in existence now. But there is this one procedural thing that we didn't do. And I don't know if nonprofits, you will find this amusing more, or if you all as members will find this more amusing, but we were very afraid in that first founding board. You know, you're always trying to manage everything and have everyone have a great experience. And so we sat in the founding board meeting. As we were getting close, we had already announced the finalists, and we were looking toward the annual award celebration. And someone around the board table said, you know, we're going to have 5 finalists up there and only 1 grant recipient. What if they start to cry? Like what if the grant recipient starts to cry and those who don't get the grant, what if they start to cry? And all of our members who've done this great thing by helping to fund this huge transformational grant, it's going to be a bummer. They're not going to know what to do. We started referring to it as a Miss America moment. You know, if you ever watch those pageants, everybody's crying by the end. And we didn't want that. So in year 1, you went through and everything happened the same at the annual awards, and everybody voted, but we didn't tell you the outcome. You left. And then the next morning, I had the job of calling all of the nonprofits and telling them, you know, I'm really sorry, we love you anyway, you're not it, until the 5th one that I could actually say was it. And all of the members got notified by email once I had notified all the finalists. That was a one and done. We changed that. We figured out that really being on that stage, doing the work that you do, you deserve a round of applause. You have earned our respect, our admiration, and our support. And if you don't get the grant this year, The good news is you get to come back next year. And every time you come back, more women will better understand your mission. You'll hone your message a little bit better, and all will be well. Now, in that first grant of $123,000, we re-outfitted 5 dental chairs in this dental clinic. And because we didn't announce it at the time, part of our process at that point was we were invited by our grantee to come and see when all the dental chairs were installed. Now, they had a staff dentist named, just lost her. And I love her dearly. I hope you're not recording this because I'm embarrassed that I can't remember her name all of a sudden. Judy Allen. Whew. Doctor, thank you. It shouldn't be that hard. She's like an amazing friend. So Dr. Judy Allen was the only staff dentist. We walked around the dental clinic and she had these easels. And on the easels were before and after pictures of her patients. Now imagine men and women with black teeth, with missing teeth, with swollen faces. Mostly you could see in their eyes the sadness. Most were not smiling. It was hard to get them to even make eye contact with the camera to have that before picture taken. When you have a condition like that, you're often very ill, you don't feel well, it's uncomfortable, it's painful, it can be life-threatening. But the other thing it is it's livelihood-threatening. Because for most entry-level positions, you can't go in like that. Now, the after picture not only showed smiling, bright faces, but it also showed that now they were employed, and now they had found stable housing, and all these things changed. That's the impact of an Impact 100 grant. Now, Judy makes less than a typical dentist. I mean, she works for a clinic like this, and her husband is a pastor. However, she joined Impact 100 the next year. She has stayed a member every year after in Cincinnati. And not only does she encourage nonprofits to apply, she also encourages people to join. She has single-handedly brought in more nonprofits and more members than I can even count. Why? Why? That's what I asked her. Of all the things you could do, Judy, and with all the work you're already doing, Judy, how is it that you choose Impact 100? And she said, I've never experienced anything so powerful, both on the grant recipient side and on the membership side. She said, you know, $1,000, it's a lot of money for me. It's sacrificial for me. But she said, I can only dream of giving away $100,000. But when I write my check for $1,000 every year, I am a part of several $100,000 worth of grants that are changing the world. And that's what I want for you. What I want for you and your friends and your neighbors and your colleagues and your sisters and your aunts and your grandmothers and all the other women in your lives. I want them to feel what it feels like to be the kind of philanthropist that changes the world for people right here. Who better than women in Greater Milwaukee to understand the needs, to meet the amazing nonprofits, to make the very difficult decision to determine who moves forward, other than you. It is the right time. Now today, I don't think anybody will argue that we are living in, I hate to continue to use unprecedented times, but we're still in unprecedented times, right? In a time when we have so many problems, what we need are more philanthropists to solve them. What we need are people like you. Now, I'm going to tell you a couple of things about why we do what we do and how we do it as it relates to members, because I think this is really important for you to understand. Remember, I'm a banker. The reason Impact 100 Greater Milwaukee asks you for $1,100 is because when you give $1,000 or more, it is a stop and think gift. Even if you are someone who is blessed with lots of surplus resources, if your checkbook does not hit bottom, if I ask you to give me $1,000, you'll hesitate for a minute. You'll pause and you'll think about it. And in that moment, you are connected to your gift. And when you are, you will also be connected to the 100,000. And when we talk about giving away 123 million, you're connected to that too. That's why. Now, that stop and think gift, for some of you, it might require budgeting. I remember when we first started, there was a woman who, she used to park in the building where she worked every day in the snow, in the winter, in the snow, and the heat in the summer. Well, when she wanted to join Impact, she thought, well, I can't keep parking under the garage where it's convenient because it's very expensive. But I can go 3 or 4 blocks away in an uncovered parking lot and save enough money to fund my membership. I've heard people who say, I used to buy fancy coffee 3 times a week. I don't do that anymore. I make my coffee at home. I bring it to work. And all the money I save goes to my Impact 100 membership. Now, I don't want to say that giving $1,000 or $1,100 is simple for all of you. It's not. I can tell you more than 50% of the women who join Impact 100 have never written a check to a single charity for $1,000 prior to joining Impact. That was true of me. When I created this model, I had never given a check for $1,000 to a single charity, but I knew I could, and I knew I should. And there was something about the lure of transforming lives, of doing something so much bigger than myself. And that's what I want for you. Now, on your tables, there's this meet and mingle thing. Here's the deal. These are open invitations for you to come and bring your friends. You don't have to tell the story. All you have to do is tell your story. You know, I told you why I joined Impact 100. I told you the evolution of Impact 100, but you have your own story. I was telling some of the women on the board that I was at an event in a small town, and I was in a private home. They had asked me to speak at a membership event. There were maybe 15 women there, not very many. So we'd had a nice conversation. I'd explained how it worked. This was a chapter that was just launching, so it was all new material. Nobody knew anything about it. And a woman stood up, and I'd said, do you have any questions? And this woman said, well, yeah, I do. She stands up. She said, well, I'm not a joiner. I don't even really like hanging out with women. I prefer to hang out with men. And she said, and I don't drink wine. I drink beer. She said, but I'm joining because this is like nothing I've ever seen before. And this is where women come together. We democratize philanthropy. It is one woman, one donation, and one vote. That I can get behind. That I can be a part of. Now, she was embarrassed at all of this. And she said, you probably never want me to tell that story. And I'm like, are you kidding me? That's like the best story I've ever heard. But that's just it. Your story is the best story I've ever heard. Your story of why you get involved and why others should, that's what really matters. If we want to make the world a better place, we just have to do something. And when we do something together, it really makes an impact. Now, here you are. You've heard from our amazing president. You've heard from the amazing hostess who put this whole thing together today. And you've got choices. What am I going to do now? What I hope you'll do is spread the word. Demystify. When you hear someone say, oh, I heard Impact 100 is only for people who live in this part of town, you say, no, that's not true. Impact 100 is for every woman who wants to make a difference in greater Milwaukee. Oh, well, I heard you have to know someone and be invited. It's a private thing. It's not a private thing. Everyone is invited. We want everyone to be there. Because only when we represent the entire community do we reach our highest potential. And I know you're going to reach your highest potential. Now, you all have gotten some nice media lately. I met a couple of very cool reporters who are going to do even more stories. Let's together write the story of 450 members this year, 500 the year after that, and who knows what happens next. But I am with you. I will help you if you just decide you are ready to make an impact. So I thank you for bringing me back. I thank you for your rapt attention. And I thank you for whatever you decide to do with regards to impact, but just keep on shining brightly, because what you do really does matter. So I thank you, and I think you all are going to be able to ask questions soon. Thanks. Is that okay?
Thank you so much, Wendy. I hope you all found that as inspiring as I have enjoyed the last day and a half or so learning from Wendy. If you have a question, please take a minute to write it on a card. And I have some runners who are going to pick them up. So if you have a question, kind of raise your hand with the question. And while we're waiting for those to come forward, if you were smart enough to drop your name in the door prize bucket, now is the moment. Have 2 prizes. I'm going to ask Wendy to draw.
Yay.
All right.
Does somebody drum roll?
All right. So our first winner and winner of her there's the drum roll. Her very own Impact 100 tote bag is Mary Basham. Basham? Okay, perfect. Mary, are you here in the room? Okay, come on up. Congratulations. And our second and final prize is a $100 gift card for the Boswell Book Company, our local independent bookstore that, again, has signed copies of Wendy's new book available for purchase out there across from the bar. Wendy?
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to really dig that.
All right. It's a wrinkled one. That's a strategy. Thank you. It is Joanne Grenaugh. Are you in the room? Congratulations. Come on up. There you go. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay. Do we have cards with questions? Carla, Renee, anybody have a question? Congratulations. Enjoy. Okay. Okay, so our question, so keep thinking. If you have a question while we're talking, raise your card. Has any chapter done sponsorship memberships, i.e. current members pay $500 and a younger person pays the second $500, or sponsored the entire $1,100 or $1,000 gift?
If I'm still mic'd, I'll stay back here. Yeah, thank you. That is a great question. And I will tell you that most chapters have some form of sponsorship available. It just depends on the chapter and the community. If y'all are familiar with Traverse City, Michigan, it's a small town in northern Michigan, and they have a lot of sponsor opportunities. Now, Pensacola does some sponsorship. Like I said, almost every chapter has some kind of sponsorship. In some cases, though, it can be the entire membership is comped. I believe that the most effective sponsorships are when the individual member puts money in and it gets matched by someone else. And from my standpoint, it really doesn't matter if it's an anonymous donor who helps to fund the other half of their membership, or if it is someone that we know, some company or person or family who makes it public. There's not a right or wrong way to do it with regards to giving credit. But what it does is, as we know as women, life can be in seasons. And there are seasons where sometimes for a good reason, like someone's having a baby, or you're doing an addition, or someone's going to college, it might be hard to make your membership. Sometimes it's not a very good reason. Somebody's sick, or somebody isn't employed fully, or things happen. In those seasons, we come alongside each other, hold each other up, help us down the path, and that's really what a sponsorship can do. Now, the reason I think it's important that the member have some skin in the game is that, especially if you're new at building your philanthropy muscle, it does take practice. It's like if you wanted me to go and run a marathon tomorrow, you'd be scraping me off the pavement at about mile 2 because I'm not a runner. In the same way, we need to practice and use the muscle of generosity. And so it's important if we sponsor someone that not only they have some financial skin in the game, but ideally they're also involved. What we know, so Impact 100, you have the ability to design your own experience. And if you're someone who travels for work or is busy doing other things, and right now you can't really get involved, it's okay. But what we know to be true is that if you are involved, it will be a much better experience for you. You will learn things you otherwise wouldn't know. And so when we sponsor someone, we hope that she will also get involved in some way so that she's growing her compassion at the same time she's growing her philanthropy muscle. And with time, each of those gets stronger, and she becomes more and more of a contributor to everything around her, but certainly to the community. Great question. Thank you for that. All right. Do we have others?
Do we have any other cards? Hands? Cards? Okay, yes. Sure. Or hand it to Carla, and then I can say it from the mic.
Or spelling, can we be clear? Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna work my way through it. If you need to correct it, do. When you get to 500,000, how do you still facilitate having the general membership get to vote if you are giving a grant to all 5 finalists? Do you bring 10 and then vote from there? How has that worked? And do you allow people to do early digital voting? Was that the question? Yeah. Yep.
That's great. So that's another terrific question. So up until you get 500 members and you're giving away 5 grants, you'll only have 5 finalists. You have 1 in each category, and then when you vote, you rank vote all of those, and the award goes to those with the highest votes. Once you get to 500, now you have 2 finalists in each category. When you have 2 finalists, the way your members vote is 1 in each category. Now, the reason that 500 is a goal, in my world, that's always been my goal, is to get all the chapters to 500. I never imagined anyone would get to 1,100 like Pensacola. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm just saying that I didn't dream quite that big. When we give away 1 grant, For those of you in the nonprofit world, what that means is your mission is a mission that is eligible for funding. What it means, if you are a woman in the community who has a passion for a particular focus area, your focus area will get funded. When that happens, we really start to see the elevation of the community, that economic engine I talked about, really going into overdrive. Because when all 5 of those areas are well funded, it changes everything. Now, the other part of that question had to do with digital voting, or what we call absentee ballots. So the answer is yes. If you're a member, if you're even considering being a member, plan to come to the annual award celebration. It is the best thing you will ever do. But sometimes you can't. You just simply can't be there. You will be allowed to vote by absentee, and your vote will count just as much as everyone else's. So that's that. Now, if you get to 600 members, you're still going to only have 2 finalists in each category. You will vote for 1 in each of the 5. And then the next ballot question will say, which focus area do you want fully funded? And so you will select that, and that's how 6 grants get delivered. I'm sure you'll get there, but I'm just letting you know in advance that's how it would work.
Such exciting possibilities. Okay, our last question. How did you decide on $100,000 as the grant total?
Oh gosh, that's a really good question. So remember, I'm a banker and I like round numbers. One of the things that I was hearing from women in Cincinnati when I created this model was this sense that when they made a donation, they never really knew what happened to the money. They didn't know where it went, if it was spent, if it mattered, if it moved the needle. They didn't think they had enough to give. They didn't think it would make a difference. Now, in the world of philanthropy, if you are a very wealthy donor and you can write a check for $100,000 and I can write a check only for $1,000, you might have your name on a room. You might determine the hours of operation. I mean, there are a lot of things you do when you are a philanthropist who can give bigger dollars. When you're a philanthropist that gives smaller dollars, you'll get a thank you note and a tax receipt. You'll be listed probably in the annual report, but that's all the influence you have. Now, understand that I don't think there's anything wrong with that system. That system works. That system is fair. But the thing is, what if we could all feel like that $100,000 giver? And that's really what it was all about. The other reason was I was involved in a lot of different nonprofits. I would volunteer on their board, or I'd lead a committee, or I'd consult. You know, I was deep in a lot of the weeds of nonprofit work. And what I heard again and again and again is that they were busy writing for these grants. They were busy dialing for dollars and dining for dollars. And when they got these grants, whether it was $5,000, $10,000, even $15,000, it was great. But it was like manna from heaven. You eat today, but you better be out gathering tomorrow. $100,000 is transformative. At $100,000, nonprofit leaders can look to the horizon and dream, what if? And then execute on that dream. I knew that nonprofits needed that kind of funding. I knew that women needed to be a part of something that transformational and sustainable. And so the 100,000 just kind of came together serendipitously. People ask me today, 22 years later, is $1,000 still significant and is 100,000 still significant? I'll tell you it is. Now, it's the cool thing about Impact 100, and the slides say this, the research said this, is that there is a ripple effect. And so often, even from our first grant, when we granted that first $123,000 to the McMicken Dental Clinic, a family foundation, they went in and they updated the carpet and the office furniture, and they pushed fresh paint on the walls. So the transformation of that practice was multiplied instantly. What we know to be true is that when we make a big gift like this, and even sometimes when you're a finalist and you don't get the grant, is that more money will follow. So do I think $1,000 is still stop and think insignificant? I do. And do I still think that $100,000 is real money? Yes, it is. We can always make it bigger. You can always find somebody who wants to match your grant. But where I come from, $100,000 can change the world. $1,000 can change your life. So thank you.
Wendy, thank you again. I feel like you're sitting by. Thank you again for joining us tonight. We really are so grateful for your time and your wisdom and your inspiration. So thank you. And just one more shameless plug for the book in the back. But Boswell will be here for a little while longer. I want to take just a minute again to thank you all for being in the room tonight, to thank Wendy for being here to inspire us. Thank you again to the architects of tonight's wonderful event, and there were many hands that were working behind the scenes, but again, especially thank you to Betsy, Maureen, and Kim and all of their teams for their work tonight. And a very special thank you to our generous sponsors who helped provide this as a complimentary event for all of those in attendance. We hope that you were inspired to take action tonight. That action might be to renew your membership, to join as a new member, to convince your friends to think about joining Impact 100, to apply for your own organization, to apply for a grant, or to talk to nonprofits you know to make sure that they know about that meeting on October 10th and about our process. We hope that you will take action. Again, thank you for joining us. We hope to see you at our Global Day of Impact event on November 2nd at the University Club downtown. Feel free to stay and mingle and enjoy the friends in the room. Have a great night. Travel safely, and thank you.